Good morning, everyone. Whether you're a frequent flyer or planning your very first trip, today's update is something you'll want to pay close attention to. Today, we're covering a major change for some people planning to visit the United States. This new policy could affect the way you prepare for your journey, and it's important to understand what's happening and why. The U.S. State Department has announced a new pilot program. Certain international visitors will now be required to pay a financial bond before entering the country. This is a significant move, and it's designed to address a long-standing issue in the U.S. immigration system. This isn't for every traveler, but for those affected, it's a big shift. The program is targeted, not universal, so it's crucial to know if you or someone you know might be impacted. The program, which will last for 1 year, specifically targets business, B1, and tourist, B2, visa applicants from a select list of countries. These countries have been identified based on their history of higher rates of visa overstays. The main goal? To reduce visa overstays when visitors don't leave after their visa expires. Overstays have been a persistent challenge, and the U.S. government is looking for new ways to encourage compliance. By requiring a refundable bond, the U.S. hopes travelers will have a strong financial reason to depart on time. If you follow the rules and leave when you're supposed to, you'll get your money back. Think of it like a security deposit. Just as you might pay a deposit when renting an apartment, this bond is meant to ensure you stick to the terms of your visa. It's a way to build trust, but also to hold visitors accountable. This is part of a broader push to tighten immigration enforcement and ensure compliance with U.S. laws. The government is taking a closer look at how to balance welcoming visitors with maintaining security and order. The government wants to see if this approach actually works to reduce overstays. They'll be monitoring the results closely, analyzing data, and considering whether to expand or adjust the program in the future. The pilot starts 15 days after the official announcement and will run for 1 full year. During this time, officials will gather feedback and track how the policy affects travel patterns. If you're planning a trip, you might wonder, does this apply to me? The answer depends on your nationality, the type of visa you're applying for, and your travel history. How much is the bond? The amount can vary, but it's designed to be significant enough to encourage compliance, while not being so high as to make travel impossible for most people. What does this mean for future travel? For some, it may add an extra step and cost to the process. For others, it could be a reassurance that the system is being managed more carefully. We'll break down the details, who's affected, how the bond works, and what the U.S. hopes to achieve. We'll also look at what you can do to prepare if you think you might be impacted. Our aim is to give you clear, straightforward information about this important change. We want you to feel confident and informed as you plan your travels. Let's dive in and see what this means for international travelers. Whether you're a student, a business person, or a tourist, understanding these changes is key to a smooth journey. Stay tuned as we explore the specifics, answer your questions, and help you navigate the new requirements. Here's what you need to know. Let's get started and make sure you're ready for your next adventure. So, who exactly will be asked to pay this new visa bond? It's a question on the minds of many travelers planning a trip to the United States. The answer is, not everyone will be affected by this policy, and for most, the process of visiting the U.S. will remain unchanged. The new rule specifically targets applicants for B1 business and B2 tourist visas who are citizens of countries with historically high rates of visa overstays. In other words, if your country has a record of many travelers staying in the U.S. beyond their permitted time, you may be subject to this bond requirement. However, if you're from a country that participates in the visa waiver program, such as the United Kingdom, Japan, or Australia, this rule does not apply to you. Travelers from these countries can continue to visit the U.S. as usual, without worrying about the new bond. The list of countries whose citizens may be affected is determined by the Department of Homeland Security, based on the latest overstay data. This list will be made public before the program officially begins, so travelers can check if their country is included. When you attend your visa interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate, the consular officer will review your application and decide if you need to post a bond. This decision is based mainly on your nationality and your country's overstay statistics, but other factors may also be considered. It's important to note that this is not a widespread policy. Only about 2,000 people are expected to be affected during the 12-month trial period, which is a tiny fraction of the millions who visit the U.S. each year. This is a focused experiment designed to gather data and test the effectiveness of the bond system rather than a sweeping change to U.S. visa policy. For the vast majority of travelers, the process of entering the United States will remain exactly the same. There's no need to worry if you're not from an affected country. Ultimately, the goal is to test whether this system can help reduce visa overstays while minimizing disruption for most travelers. The results of this trial will help shape future immigration policy decisions. Why target these countries? It's all about visa overstays. Many undocumented immigrants in the U.S. originally entered legally but didn't leave when required. Overstayers make up over 40% of the estimated 11 million undocumented people in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security tracks overstay rates by country. Some countries, like Chad and Laos, have overstay rates above 30%. Others, like Mexico and Colombia, have high total numbers of overstayers. By focusing on these countries, the U.S. hopes a financial bond will encourage compliance. There's also a diplomatic angle. The U.S. wants foreign governments to help ensure their citizens return home. The message is clear: improve your screening or face travel restrictions. This policy is both a deterrent and a diplomatic nudge. The U.S. is watching the data closely. The results will shape future policy. If you're required to post a bond as part of your U.S. visa process, you're probably wondering, how much will it actually cost? The answer isn't always straightforward, and it can feel overwhelming to navigate the details, especially if you're planning your first trip or have family members traveling with you. The program sets 3 possible bond amounts: $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000. These are significant sums, and the exact amount you'll be asked to pay depends on your individual circumstances. The consular officer at your visa interview will decide which amount applies to you. Their decision is based on how likely they think you are to overstay your visa or violate the terms of your visit. They'll look at several factors, including your reason for travel, your financial situation, your employment status, and how strong your ties are to your home country, like family, property, or a steady job. If the officer believes you might not return home as promised, you'll be asked to pay a higher bond. The higher the perceived risk, the higher the bond amount you'll need to post. The good news is, the bond is fully refundable, as long as you leave the U.S. on time and follow all the rules of your visa. After your departure is confirmed, you'll get your money back. But if you fail to depart as required or break the terms of your visa, you forfeit the entire amount. That means you lose all the money you put up for the bond. To make sure your departure is properly recorded, you'll likely need to use specific, designated airports for both entry and exit. This helps officials track who leaves and when. For many travelers, coming up with thousands of dollars, even if it's only temporary, can be a real challenge. It may require borrowing money, dipping into savings, or asking family for help. This financial risk is designed to discourage people from overstaying their visas. It's a strong incentive to follow the rules and return home on time. For some, the bond requirement could make traveling to the U.S. more difficult or even impossible, especially for those with limited resources. The government hopes that the deterrent effect of the bond will outweigh the inconvenience it causes for travelers and their families. The entire process will be closely monitored by officials to ensure the program is working as intended and to make adjustments if needed. Remember, this is a pilot program, a one-year test, not a permanent rule. The government wants to see if financial bonds actually reduce overstays. About 2,000 travelers will be tracked to measure the program's impact. Officials will also test if the system for collecting, holding, and refunding bonds works smoothly. At the end of the year, the data will determine the program's future. The government could end, extend, or expand it. This limited approach lets them gather feedback without disrupting global travel. The results will shape U.S. visa policy going forward. This bond program is part of a broader trend in U.S. immigration policy. Recent changes include travel bans, new visa fees, and increased social media screening for applicants. The focus is on stricter enforcement, higher costs, and more scrutiny. The bond program adds a financial consequence for overstaying, complementing other measures. It's designed to manage visitor behavior after arrival, not just before. For those following U.S. immigration news, this is a logical next step. The landscape is shifting toward tougher rules and more accountability. If you're from an affected country, this policy could impact your travel plans. The bond adds a significant, unexpected cost, potentially making U.S. trips unaffordable for some. The visa process now includes the possibility of a bond, adding stress and uncertainty. If you're required to pay, be meticulous with your travel dates and use designated entry-exit points to ensure your refund. Stay informed. Check official announcements for updates and procedures. Factor the bond into your financial planning if your country is on the list. Preparation is key to a smooth trip. Know the rules before you go. Even as a small pilot, the Visa Bond program could affect U.S. tourism and the economy. International visitors spend billions in the U.S., supporting millions of jobs. Policies that make travel harder may discourage visitors and hurt the tourism industry. Critics warn the bond sends an unwelcoming message and could spark diplomatic tensions. Targeted countries might retaliate with similar requirements for Americans. The U.S. sees the bond as necessary to protect its immigration system. The long-term impact depends on how the program is implemented and received. The world is watching to see what happens next. Let's recap the essentials of the new Visa Bond program. It's a one-year pilot, affecting about 2,000 travelers, not a permanent change. The goal is to test if financial bonds reduce visa overstays. Only B1 and B2 visa applicants from certain countries may be required to pay. The bond is $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000, refundable if you leave on time. Overstay and you lose the money. Use designated airports to ensure your departure is recorded. This is part of a broader trend towards stricter U.S. immigration enforcement. Stay informed and prepared before making travel plans. We'll keep you updated as the story develops.